So we head into the Scottish Cup fourth round fixtures this weekend, and this is our first football type video back on the channel for just over 3 months. Good to be back. It was I was on holiday during the October period, and then I had a lot of stuff on since I got back, and just didn't find the time to dedicate any spare time to this. But now that we do have time, it's good to get back into it. It's a shame that I haven't had the time because it's been, of course, a very exciting season on all fronts for Scottish football, as we have Hearts 6 points clear at the top of the table, with Celtic and Rangers level on points, which probably not a lot of people would have seen coming at the start of the season. But two terrible managers each has managed to get that to be the case for the two clubs. And Hearts have managed to take full advantage of that and get themselves a chance, potentially, of ending the over 40 years of having just Celtic and Rangers dominance with titles. But this is cup fixtures, not league fixtures that we're talking about, and we've got a lot to get through. So let's just start off with our first fixture, which is taking place this afternoon, or tonight, between Rangers and Annan Athletic. Now, of course, Rangers did exit the cup early last time out, with Queen's Park beating them at Ibrox. I do not anticipate that this will happen again this time with Annan Athletic. I think this will be a relatively routine victory for Rangers. The next two games they can rotate heavily because, of course, they're already out of the Europa League, so they don't need to. I mean, there's the prize money for winning games, and there's a bit of pride as well involved in it, but obviously the league is the bread and butter, which means that these next two games give them a good chance to rotate heavily and still come out with a relatively positive result in terms of the cup, at least anyway. I think we will see heavy rotation from Rangers here, maybe featuring a new signing or two in the starting 11. But I am going to go for a routine 3-0 win for Rangers in this fixture, unfortunately for Annan in that case. On to our tomorrow's fixture, starting off with our early kick-off between Dunfermline and Hibs, which could, I think, see a bit of a cup set, if you like. With Dunfermline being at home, they've been going all right in the Championship this season under Neil Lennon. Neil Lennon's old club, of course, one of them that will be going up against. And Hibs are so hot and cold at times as well that I could see this being a cup upset. And that's exactly what I'm going to predict as well. Sorry to any Hibs fans watching. I'm going to go for a 2-1 Dunfermline win in this case. On to Airdrieonians and Arbroath. Nothing too out there. I'm not going to pretend that I know all the ins and outs of a lot of the lower league oppositions as well, so I'm just going to go with a gut feeling for most of it. I think a lot of people that are Scottish football fans that don't follow the lower league teams are probably going to be in the same boat where they just go with their gut on a lot of them. But in this case, I'm going to go for a home win here for Airdrieonians, and I'm going to go for a 2-1 win. Then we've got Camelon Juniors against Elgin City. I think this will be routine for Elgin. I don't see this being a Super Cup upset. With that being the case, I'm going to go for a 2-0 win for Elgin. Dundee United and Ayr United should be a good game. We've got, obviously, Scott Brown in charge of Ayr United. Sometimes they can come away with really good results, sometimes not the greatest. And Dundee United haven't been on the end of a lot of good results recently. Sometimes there's some good ones in there. Obviously, they defeated Celtic when they were under Wilfred Nancy, but then, you get a Derby Day defeat, losing heavily to Celtic as well in that time. So when Martin O'Neill came back in, but I am going to go for a 1-0 Dundee United win in this case. Celtic Hearts and Cove Rangers. With this one, I'm just going to keep it brief. We'll go 2-1 Celtic Hearts. Kilmarnock and Dundee is an interesting one. Kilmarnock have had a really torrid time of it recently. Of course, they now have Neil McCann in charge. But Dundee have, been a bit of an up and down season. Really poor start to the season in the League Cup campaign. Nobody wanting Stephen Pressley in charge, but then he starts getting some big results in there. Of course, he beat Celtic at home, back in October. You're looking at a couple of derby wins in there as well. Unlucky not to get something off of Hearts with that spectacular Craig Gordon save as well. And I'm going to make Dundee favourites to go through this tie. I think Kilmarnock need to focus on surviving more than the cup, to be honest. And I'm going to go for a 2-1 Dundee win. Livingston, St Mirren, both teams have been really rotten recently. Livingston for a longer period than St Mirren, of course. St Mirren haven't been at their best since they won the cup final against Wilfred Nancy's Celtic, and Stephen Robinson came out with a really quite scathing interview quite after the most recent game against Hearts, where they were playing against 10 men for a vast majority of the game and still lost 2-0, which is never a good look on any manager when that's the case. You know, you can get a scrappy 1-0 win in the 10 men, but by all accounts, Hearts were in control for large spells, even with 10 men. So, not a great look, and he's came out and lambasted the players in the media. This could be Livy's chance to springboard and potentially get a great escape from getting the confidence from this result, and I am going to back Livingston to knock St Mirren out, and I'm going to go for a 1-0 Livingston win. Motherwell, Ross County. Ross County have had a bit of a torrid time of it this season in the Championship, which is surprising given the fact that they made signings in which I thought were shrewd signings and we're going to get them coming straight back up. But they've now got Stuart Kettlewell in charge, of course, on an interim basis till the end of the season. But I think Motherwell are going to be too strong for them, and I'm going to go for a 3-0 Motherwell win. Partick Thistle, Montrose. I think Partick Thistle will come away comfortable winners here. 2-0 to Partick Thistle. Spartans and Inverness should be a good cup tie. Spartans, of course, do like a good cup run at times and getting some good results, and I'm going to back them to get another one here, and I'm going to go for a 2-1 Spartans win. Stenhousemuir and Greenock Morton. I think Morton will win this one. I'm going to go for a 1-0 Morton win. Stranraer and Queen's Park. I'm going to back Queen's Park to come away winners in that one. I'm going to go for a 1-0 Queen's Park win. Hearts and Falkirk, the late kick-off tomorrow night. It's going to be interesting because Hearts, you know, they've got themselves into a title fight and they have a 6-point advantage at the top of the table. They have a huge game next weekend against Celtic, of course, that will help determine how the season finishes. They've got some key players that have either picked up suspensions in the league, like Schwallow and Benny Beningame, and Cammy Devlin. There's still no word on it at the time of recording on how bad his injury is that he picked up at the end of the game against St Mirren. One of the key players for Hearts this season, so I think they will see rotation anyway. Falkirk could be thinking that they could go on a cup run. They played well against Celtic the other night, and overall have had a good season, top 6 so far. Who knows if they could push on further there. It'll be interesting. I think it'll go into extra time, this game. Hearts rotating heavily, Falkirk not doing so, and trying to push for that cup run. And I'm going to back Hearts to get through in extra time, though. 2-1 after extra time. On to the Sunday games. We have Aberdeen and Raith Rovers. Aberdeen, of course, still managerless at the time of recording as well. Really disappointing season on a lot of fronts for them this season. Europe, I think you can kind of let them away with. There's been some okay results in Europe. When the draw was made, they had by far the hardest Conference League draw of anybody, and they weren't really expected to win any of those ties and maybe not even draw any of those ties. They were humiliated on a couple of occasions in Europe, but I think they did all right as an overall standpoint there. But domestically this season it has been disappointing, particularly against the sides that are above them in the table. I've seen that statistic when they were playing Rangers the other night, that they have one victory against the teams above them and just constant defeats as well. So it's not been good. But I would still back them to, at Pittodrie, deal with Raith Rovers, and I'm going to go for a 1-0 Aberdeen win. Nothing spectacular. They have been struggling to score, so I think that'll be the case. And then on to our final game of the Cup weekend. We've got Auchinleck Talbot against Celtic. Auchinleck Talbot looking to do a Darvel against Aberdeen level giant killing here. They are playing the game at Rugby Park as well, by order of the police, I think it was. Celtic, of course, massive up and down season for them. Brendan Rodgers, of course, struggling to get results in terms of putting the ball in the back of the net, particularly in the last half of his tenure this season. The Kairat Almaty result was kind of the catalyst for a lot of toxicity amongst the Celtic support. Martin O'Neill came in his first spell this season and steadied the ship. 7 wins out of 8 it was, just the one loss in all competitions against Midtjylland, but 100% record domestically, including a derby win as well in that run of games. Wilfred Nancy comes in, completely derails the ship with just the 2 wins in his tenure, one of them coming against 10-man Aberdeen, who themselves were having a torrid time, and one of them coming against bottom of the league Livingston as well. A Derby Day defeat in there and a cup final defeat. He was never going to survive that. And then, of course, Martin O'Neill comes back in. Not the most convincing win against Falkirk during the midweek, but it was a win, and a really convincing win against Dundee United last weekend. So I think Celtic will rotate heavily in this game, not just because of the Hearts game next weekend, but also you've got the game in the Europa League coming up in the middle of the week, which of course Celtic are still in a position where they can progress in the Europa League. And if they pick up any sort of points against Bologna, you would back them to do so, I would imagine. It'll be a tough task, but Celtic, with the level of opposition they're playing against, of course, Martin O'Neill said that he would never underestimate any level of opposition, but they have been given a good tie to rotate and still get the job done. I don't think it's going to be a smashing by any means. A knocking like Talbot are going to turn up and give up everything they've got. But I am going to go for a relatively routine 3-0 Celtic win here. So that's going to do it for the Scottish Cup Round 4 predictions. If you are new round here or you're a returning viewer, please like the video. It helps a lot. I am going to have to work pretty hard with the videos to try and get back on side with the YouTube algorithm after taking a few months off, unfortunately. But we'll see if we can get back up to where we were previously with views and engagement there. If you are new around here, please consider subscribing and checking out some of the other content on the channel. I did drop a new SPFL RTG episode for FC26 yesterday. If you would love to check that out, that would be greatly appreciated. And I'll catch you in the next one.